because it is the original that's thought of as the substrate. The phonetic form is called the surface form. That's what happens when you actually produce the word when you, as it were, put it out to the surface. In the same way, the word for lawlessness on the phonemic or the underlying level is mu book. And so you have the P there because the P at first is just put there on some level mentally. The phonetic form, the surface form is, and this is what you put in brackets, mu book. That's where you show that when a nice unsuspecting P happens to be between two vowels, it has a voice put into it. I can put it that way. It becomes a voiced bilabial stop. That's what happens because vowels, if you think about it, to take you into this a little further, vowels are voiced. You know, with a vowel has a voice, that is a voiced thing. There's no, for our purposes, voiceless vowels. And so the P ends up being a little bit more like what it's surrounded by, and it takes on a voice, and it becomes mu book. That's something that you indicate as having happened as the word was generated, as we put it, from underlying to surface. And so you've got underlying form and surface form. That's how language works. There's something going on underneath, and then there's something that actually happens on the surface, and there can be differences between them. So there's the phonemic level and the phonetic level, and this is something which happens throughout grammar on different levels, as we'll see, to the point where there are linguists who talk about just emic and etic. Those are words that have been derived from the original concepts of phonemic and phonetic. Emic is underlying, etic is what happens to the underlying material when it
なかなかイメージないか。
It is pummeled about by things such as sounds wanting to be more like each other, or any number of things. This emic versus etic issue also ties into how language changes, as we'll see. But you understand now, I hope that there is a basic conception, which is that there is a grand concept of, for example, P. That's your phoneme, the real sound. And then there are ways that the P can be pronounced. And that varies. And the way that sort of thing varies with each sound in a language means that there is a difference between what P versus P means in a language. There's a difference between what B versus P will mean in a language. Varies with the sound sets of each language. Now let me show you another example of how what's going on the bottom could be different from what's going on the top. Let's think about the English plural. And so we have these various words, and we're told, based on writing, that the plural marker in English is S. And that's because that's what we see on the page. And it's perfectly natural to think that that's what's going on. But have you ever noticed that actually, not just some of the time, but most of the time, this supposed S is pronounced as Z? I mean, think about it. You've got your cards, pigs, fans, hams, hogs. There's no way you would say hogs. That's not what the plural marker is. You have one ham. That's, nice. Now, if you have more than one ham, do you say hams? That's not even a word of English. You say hams. It's a Z, really. It's a Z most of the time. You've got a house, and then you have houses. No, you have houses. In fact, you only pronounce the plural marker with an S in a certain case. And so, for example, think about it. Cats, hacks, coughs, moths. And you would not say, for example, cads, like cats. That doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't say for hacks. You can't, really. And so you say hacks. And this is giving you a hint as to what's actually going on. The plural marker in English is not S. Whatever determined that it was written that way in writing a very, very long time ago when the language was actually at a different stage. In English, as we speak it now, the plural marker, in the real sense, is Z. That's what it is most of the time. After vowels, for example,